The Helldivers have met a trooper-esque defeat on Oshuane, blaming everything from the bugs to the bugs, all the way to Arrowhead themselves, claiming they really wanted us to fail. But for those watching the signs, our defeat at the hands of the bugs was written in time nearly 30 years ago. If you're new here and you want to help support the channel, the easy and free way is to hit subscribe, and don't forget to ring the notifications bell to receive my future upload alerts. And here comes the latest in mission debriefs from Helldivers. Well, the inevitable has happened, as we were resoundingly thumped with our now just ended major order to collect samples on Oshuane, which is what GamesRadar decided to run with today. Helldivers 2 players are blaming everything from bugs to the other kind of bugs to Arrowhead itself for them failing the latest major order. Quote, "The caves did things and it was not pretty. Can't help but feel this is what was meant to happen." After the Helldivers 2 community suffered a pretty decisive and frankly expected setback in the latest major order, players are pointing the finger at a number of variables potentially at play, including fate itself as decided by the string pullers at Arrowhead. In case you missed it, yes, the latest mission set forth by Super Earth High Command to liberate Oshuane was not successful, with Arrowhead saying, quote, "Forced to fight for life and liberty against waves of monstrous terminid mutants, the Helldivers were unable to meet target sample numbers. In other words, we got thwomped." We called this. Ever since the new Hive Lord Terminids were introduced, it felt like we were fighting an uphill battle, and alas, we were. We tumbled backwards down that hill into a puddle of disgrace. Were we uncoordinated, or were we woefully outmatched? Or, as some have surmised, were real-life software-related bugs and not the colossal worm-like Terminids to blame for our demise? Opinions vary, but almost no one's surprised. "The caves did things, and it was not pretty," reads the above Reddit's thread top reply, seemingly referencing the cave systems introduced in the new Hive World biome. I mean, I can't even extract when the pelican is literally 6 feet under digging my grave. Language is another bruised and battered Helldiver. "Can't help but feel this is what was meant to happen," says another, echoing the popular sentiment that Arrowhead knowingly put us all in a doomed mission in order to control a certain narrative. "I flat out think this never would have been completed just for narrative reasons. They really wanted us to fail," reads a similar comment. Still, there are some who blame the game's wonky performance for Super Earth's failure, saying, quote, "Somehow I feel this MO failed due to bugs and not the bugs." "I blame the glitches on this one. Half the time Pelican 1 would fly through the ground and get stuck," says another disgruntled Helldiver. Whatever the reason, this loss was entirely foreseeable. So fortunately, despite everything from bugs to those bugs to Arrowhead itself catching strays in the blame game, Helldivers are at least united in their apathy toward what many saw as an inevitability. Not exactly an encouraging sentiment in the ongoing fight for democracy, but hey, the battle might be lost, but the war rages on. I'll leave a link to Jordan Gerblick's GamesRadar article down in the video description so you can check it out for yourselves, because we need to dive into the topic of why the Helldivers were not going to, nor were they ever going to win on one of the bug homeworlds, at least not at first. And fellas, that answer has been staring us straight in the face for the past 10,168 days, or hell, 66 years if you really want to go back to the source material. And of course, we're talking about Starship Troopers. Just listen to these parallels here between the Troopers and the Helldivers. So first off, in response to a meteor attack that leveled Buenos Aires, the Federation Council decided on an all-out assault on the bugs' homeworld of Klendathu was needed, and it was spearheaded back then by Sky Marshal Deans. Over in our universe of the Helldivers, the bugs started invading our megacities and leading up to Into the Unjust, and armed now with the new gloom-resistant polymer coatings, our fleet was able to venture inside the gloom to take the fight to the Terminid's doorstep. On the other side, the Troopers were assembled on Battle Station Ticonderoga, located inside the Arachnid Quarantine Zone, where the mobile infantry were amassed for the assault on Big K, Klendathu. Now, the plan was to blitz the planet with masses of mobile infantry, and just listen to all of these similarities, under the assumption that the bug batteries would be random and light, and that the troopers could overrun the arachnids before they could fully mobilize. In reality, the troopers were tossed into a carnage blender as the bug batteries began a sustained assault on the Federation high-orbit ships, cutting off any chance of close air support while also unleashing their hordes of ground troops. Without said air support and heavily outnumbered, the mobile infantry were then decimated, suffering over 308,000 casualties, 100,000 of which died in the first hour, with another 205,000 that eventually just were shown as missing. This was a resounding defeat, one in which the troopers took their enemy for granted, which brings us back to the Helldivers universe and their very own Big K, Oshuane, which at this point is now showing over 216 million Helldiver casualties. But for those who were watching, and for those who were seeing the signs, along with knowing the studio's affinity for Starship Troopers, we knew what was about to happen. Our attack on the Bugs planet mirrors that of the Troopers, dealing with overwhelming ground units while suffering from loss of air support. That would be the dispatch, where Eagles took 30% longer to come in. Extractions taking longer than normal, less ammo due to interference. I mean, all the signs were there that Arrowhead was putting us through our very own battle for Klendathu, just under a different name and with slightly different modifiers. That being said, the results were the exact same. Total and undeniable failure. However, one aspect we Helldivers had to deal with mission after mission were not the Terminids themselves, but the other kind of bugs. And believe me, I've been down planetside standing shoulder to shoulder with my fellow divers on Super Helldive difficulty 10, and it was bad. There's no getting around it. Disconnects, sketchy performance, the extraction shuttle pilot acting like they were drunk, flying 6 feet underground, making the ramp inaccessible, Bile dragon spawns breaking so there would be like 20 of them flying around directly overhead, rupture strain warriors absolutely destroying the host with no ability to counter or anticipate their attacks, call-ins landing on top of the caves with no hope of retrieving them, and the list goes on and on and on. Not to mention the insanely pumped up bug patrols and breaches. I mean, we've seen some pissed off bug concentrations before, right? But I can't remember a time when we've seen that many bugs all in one area and just constantly dogging us across the mission from start to finish. For the longer mission types, it was 40 minutes of high voltage, put on your try-hard pants and dive in like a sweatlord combat with zero breaks. With our only success from that last major order being that we held Hellmire, much like the Troopers did with Battle Station Ticonderoga, giving us a jump point back at the bugs' homeworlds once we take care of business elsewhere. I will say this though, and this is me breaking script and just speaking honestly, and this is also based on how amped up the bugs were to defend Oshuane and how many samples we were being asked with collecting, but we were never meant to win that major order. And the precedence for that loss was of course buried in history and based on lore sources we know our universe is based off of, that being Starship Troopers. I've seen players posting messages telling other divers, just back down the difficulty, bro, and farm on lower levels. But from the posts we were seeing, even 5s to 7s were a straight meat grinder. No, this one was impossible from the start. The question is, what do the Helldivers do now that they have suffered their very own Klendathu? The answer to that question went live a little earlier today, of course, with our inevitable failure notice and the new orders being handed down from Helldivers HQ. And again, very much like the Starship Troopers, having learned from our attempted blitz and destruction on Oshuane, we Helldivers are now being tasked with clearing out the surrounding planets one by one. But our version of the story has a bit of a twist here, as the Terminids have seized on our defeat and are now attempting to break out of the gloom, currently directing their attention on 𝗙cie and 𝗕𝗀𝗃. For now, it looks like the Helldivers need a break from close quarters combat and are first electing to tackle 𝗙cie, as the thought of the rupture strain on 𝗕𝗀𝗃 is way too unsettling. I don't blame them. But over the next 7 days, we're going to have to defend a total of 7 Terminid attacks as the next chapter in our attempt to eradicate the Terminids presents itself. At this point, I'm fairly sure you've heard it before, but pay very close attention to where you are diving, as the more divers log on and don't actually hit the current objectives, the harder it becomes for those that are doing so to maintain any sort of momentum. But yeah, there you go. 𝗪𝗆𝗄𝗃 was never going to happen, as it was scripted to be. Feel free to leave feedback about anything Helldivers, and I will do my best to respond. No update patch hit the game today, as this week's crash fixes were actually pushed up to last week to try to handle those as quickly as possible. Also, if you're looking to squad up, and who isn't, check in the video description and pinned comments for an open invite link to my Discord server, where, among other things, you can use the LFG channel to find a squad, hop into voice channels, and coordinate your attacks. Remember to hit subscribe and ring that notification bell to stay up to date on all my latest uploads. Thanks so much to all of our channel members, and until the next one, this is 𝗲𝗲𝗋𝗆𝐿TBuzzLitebeer, signing off.